What's the difference between the dark night of the soul and the pre-awakening suffering delusionment? Thank you. I don't know if there necessarily is a difference. People talk about it in different ways, but when you're seeing through the illusion of yourself, it's hellish. It's very painful. You can have lots of highs and opening and like remembering of your true self, but seeing through the illusion is very hellish because it's everything you take yourself to be. So I don't really know what people mean by the dark soul, like dark night of the soul. Like I used to have a sense of it as in like Jesus walking through the desert for 40 days and 40 nights and Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree. I don't know if that's what they interpret as the dark night of the soul. But it's kind of like this no man's land where you've had an awakening and you know of the deeper reality of who you are, but there's still big identification with the person. And so the person's kind of can no longer seek in the old world of getting relief from money or drugs or sex or rock and roll, and yet still isn't free. So it's kind of like a beggar walking through a dry, barren land. It's got no relief. Very painful state to be in. Yeah. And sometimes prior to a big awakening, there can be extreme fear that arises because the body physiologically tells you it's dying, but it's not actually dying, but it will tell you it's dying. So you'll have the effects of like a panic attack in a way. It won't really be a panic attack, like your heartbeat will begin to raise and you'll feel like anxiety, but it's just because like energetically your whole life you felt like you're in here, and then as that begins to crumble and your essence begins to expand back to what it always was, but it feels like it's contracted, so there's this expansion, your body is like dying, because in a way it is death. That's also what happens in death, but your body is still alive, so your body's like dying, and sometimes people can get stuck in that and can't go through it. It's not their fault in any way. There's just the system isn't ready for it. So they get into a panic attack. Like the key to it is when you have that experience is like just a deep knowing that you're not dying, like a deep knowing that there's not a problem. So it's like you've got to not buy into that you're dying. So you've not got to get up and like phone the ambulance or something. That's not saying like if you're having that's not giving you any advice in a way, because if you think that you've got physiological problems, always get them checked out by the doctors. This isn't telling you not to, but yeah, that's what happens often prior to the big shift, is you kind of like have this feeling like you're dying. It's because when you're identified, consciousness kind of shrinks, even though it can't, but it kind of contains itself in an energy of being in here, and the I am being in here, whereas they're really in all things. And that is a profoundly different way of being.